Welcome to part 3 of the Legoz Quick Start presentation. In this session, the creation of data objects, the application of security roles, and the access levels available to different users within the system are demonstrated. The session also illustrates how users interact with the platform based on their assigned roles, highlighting how role-based security ensures access is restricted to the data and functionality relevant to each role. These examples demonstrate the effectiveness of Legoz security controls and how they support secure controlled access to data. With access assigned to the database, the next step is to log in using the user profiles created in Part 1 and verify role-based access within the system. The demonstration will show that the demo developer can create and modify data objects, the demo owner can review and approve data object changes, the demo superuser can oversee the process and intervene where required, and the demo user has access only to the data objects explicitly assigned at data object level. To begin, select the Logout button in the top right corner of the screen to end the current admin user session. Once logged out, log back into Legoz as the demo developer user, using the credentials defined during account creation. Once signed in, observe the Explorer and menu items available under the Legoz menu. The home page provides a central view of key system activity and pending actions. Its features and functionality will be explored in more detail as this demonstration progresses. It should be noted that the demo developer user has access to a restricted set of Explorer and menu items, as defined by the assigned demo app role. Navigate to the Legoz Explorer and select the Data Sources menu item. Only a single record should be displayed in the tree view. Verify that this record corresponds to the Chinook data source. This restriction reflects the access assigned to the demo developer role, which has been granted access only to the Chinook data source. Since the user has access to the data source, let's examine the available options within the Legoz Explorer to determine if they can create a data object. It will be noted that the Legoz Explorer contains all options required to build and manage data objects, including data sources and their associated entities. The object library is divided into two sections. Data objects contains all published content, organized either under uncategorized or within folders. Workspaces, created based on the development roles assigned to a developer. Where a user is assigned multiple development roles, access may be available to multiple workspaces, allowing development activities to be performed across different areas. As the demo developer has not yet created any content, no items are displayed within the Workspaces section or any of the published data object groupings. When expanding the data source, it can be seen that access is limited to the Chinook entities discovered during the data source discovery process. These entities are available for use when creating data objects. The next step is to build a data object using the available entities. For the purposes of this demonstration, advanced data object configuration features are not covered. Further information on these capabilities can be found in the Object Builder training module. Begin by selecting the Create Data Object button at the top of the blank canvas. This action opens the Create Data Object pop-up modal. The following information is mandatory: data object name, description and development role for the data object's workspace. Remember that users can be linked to more than one development role, resulting in multiple workspaces. Choose whether the data object should be a standard data object or a union. Optional settings can be configured under the Data Object Configuration tab at a later stage. For this demonstration, create a standard data object named demo_do with the demo developer role and push enabled. Once all mandatory fields have been completed, the Save button becomes enabled. Select the Save button to create the data object and save the changes. Once the data object has been created, a new tab will appear within the workspace. Tabs can be pinned, allowing efficient navigation between different areas of the platform. Beneath the tab is a ribbon containing various data object actions and functions. It will also be noted that a workspace has been created, with the new data object listed beneath it. Expand the Chinook data source to view the available entities. Hover over the Chinook DBO track record and select the arrow next to the entity. This action inserts the entity into the data object canvas on the right-hand side of the screen. Due to the relational nature of the Chinook database, a new grouping named Linked Objects appears within the object library. The entities displayed within this grouping have direct relationships with the entity currently on the canvas. Insert the Chinook DBO album entity onto the data object canvas. It should be noted that the relationship between the two entities is established automatically based on the relationships identified during the data source discovery process. Where no discovered relationship exists between objects, a relationship can be created manually by dragging an attribute from one object onto a corresponding attribute in another object. A pop-up modal will then be displayed, allowing the required relationship type to be defined for the connection. With the base object established, the next step is to select the attributes to be included in the data object. Select all attributes from the track object and only the title attribute from the album object. To verify that the data object validates successfully, select the validation button. The border of the validation screen will turn green to indicate that the data object has validated successfully. If the border turns red, this indicates that the data object contains an error that must be resolved before proceeding. Select the Close button to return to the data object canvas. To verify that the expected data is being returned, select either the Run button at the top right of the object canvas, or the Data Preview option at the bottom left of the canvas. A sample of 100 records will be displayed for review. If the results are satisfactory, the data object is ready to be published. To publish the data object, select the Request to Publish button. Enter a description of the changes made. This information will be included in the notification sent to the owners of the data source. Before submitting the request, ensure that all data objects listed in the grid have a validation status of true. Select the Save button to submit the request. A confirmation message will be displayed, indicating that the request has been submitted as a batch job and can be monitored from the home page. Select the pinned home page. Interactive dashboard charts provide a summary of platform activity. Selecting a chart segment opens the related records, including any associated warnings or errors. Activity information can be filtered to display the previous 1, 7, or 30 days, providing quick access to recent system events. Select the Publication Requests pie chart to view the progress of publication requests. Once a request has been completed, the associated data object will be displayed in the grid beneath the charts, and the request is available for review and approval by an owner. Selecting the Detail icon opens a modal displaying the full details of the publication request. As the demo developer user is not assigned an owner or super user role, access to the data object is not available until the publication request has been approved. To verify this, expand the workspace and uncategorized options in the Legoz Explorer and note that no published version of the data object is available. Having demonstrated that the developer role is responsible for creating and submitting data objects, the next step is to examine the owner role. Log out of the current session and sign back into Legoz using the demo owner user account and the credentials defined during account creation. Once signed in, review the menu items available under the Legoz Explorer. Like the demo developer, the demo owner has access to a restricted set of menu items based on the assigned demo app role. Navigate to the Data Sources menu item. Only a single data source record should be displayed. Verify that the record corresponds to the Chinook data source. This restriction reflects the access assigned to the demo owner role, which has been granted access only to the Chinook data source. Note the presence of an additional pending approval section within the Legoz Explorer. This section displays all data objects awaiting approval for data sources assigned to the owner role. As with the demo developer, the demo owner has not yet published any content. As a result, no items are displayed within the Workspaces section or any published data object groupings. As the logged-in user does not have permission to develop data objects, the available entities can only be viewed for reference purposes or to determine where they are used within the system. Under the Pending Approval section, note the presence of the owner grouping. This area lists all data objects submitted by developers that are currently awaiting approval. Data objects can be reviewed and approved either by right-clicking the data object here and selecting the Review option, or directly from the Approval Request sidebar on the home page. Select the relevant data object from the Approval Request sidebar. The Publish Request modal will then open. From this screen, the owner can view the data returned by the data object. Verify the data object configuration. Compare data object versions to review changes. View the data lineage. If the configuration is satisfactory, the request can be approved. If the request is not satisfactory, it can be rejected. When rejecting a request, a comment must be provided to inform the developer of the reason for rejection. If a request is rejected, the data object is removed from the owner's approval queue and becomes available to the developer for further modification and resubmission. For the purposes of this demonstration, approve the request by selecting the Approve button. A confirmation message will be displayed, indicating that the approval request has been submitted as a batch job. Progress can be monitored using the Publication Approvals pie chart on the home page. Once the status changes to completed, the data object is published and becomes available within the Data Objects section. To verify this, select the Data Objects menu item. Expand the Data Objects grouping under the Uncategorized section, where the newly published data object will be listed. Once published, a data object is available for consumption by other users, provided they have been granted the appropriate access. Owners and developers are responsible for managing data object permissions, ensuring that relevant users and roles have access to the data they require. In this example, only a single data object is listed. To grant access to the newly published data object, locate the data object in the tree view, right-click it, and select View from the pop-up menu. The data object will open in a new tab. Select the Permissions tab. A grid containing all roles within the system will be displayed. Some roles will already have access based on assigned role types and data source permissions. As the demo user is associated only with the demo app role, access must be granted to the principal group created during the user account creation process. To do this, filter the roles grid by entering demo user in the role code filter field. A single record should be returned, showing that no access has yet been assigned. To grant access, select the Read checkbox for the demo user principal group. The change is saved automatically. The demo user now has read-only access to the data object. Log out of the current session. Sign in as the demo user using the credentials you entered during account creation. Upon signing in, review the menu items available under the Legoz menu. Like the demo developer and demo owner, the demo user has access to a restricted set of menu items based on the assigned demo app role. Select the Legoz Explorer and navigate to the Data Sources menu item. No records are displayed in the Data Sources grid because the demo user is not associated with any roles that have been granted access to the Chinook data source. Select the Data Objects menu item and expand the Uncategorized section to view the available data objects. The demo user has access to the published data object. Right-click the data object and select Preview Data from the pop-up menu. If data is returned in the preview window, this confirms that the user has read access to the data object. As discussed earlier in this module, all roles with super user access within the organization where the data source was created are automatically granted access to that data source. In this demonstration, the super user role was therefore automatically assigned access to the Chinook data source. Super user access allows users to act on behalf of any owner within the organization, including the ability to review and approve data objects on behalf of owners. Log out of the current session. For demonstration purposes, the demo data object has been checked out by the demo developer, modified, and submitted for publication. In this section, Legoz is accessed using the super user account to demonstrate that the super user role can perform the same approval functions as the owner role. Sign back into Legoz as the demo super user using the credentials defined during account creation. Once signed in, review the menu items available under the Legoz and System Administration Explorer options. Unlike the demo developer and demo owner, the demo super user has access to the full set of menu items through the assigned demo admin role. Navigate to the Data Sources menu item. Only a single record should be displayed in the Data Sources grid. Verify that the record corresponds to the Chinook data source. This reflects the access automatically granted to the demo super user role. Select the Data Objects menu item and expand the Uncategorized section. The published data object, demo_do, will be displayed. It should also be noted that a second demo_do data object appears within the Pending Approval section, representing the modified version awaiting approval. The approval request can also be accessed from the Approval Request sidebar on the home page. Select the data object to open the Publish Request modal. To review the proposed changes, select the More Info icon within the grid. The Compare Version modal will open, displaying the published version on the left and the version awaiting approval on the right. Different comparison views can be selected using the available radio buttons. In the Fields view, note that the Chinook genre field is highlighted. This indicates that the field will be removed from the published data object if the request is approved. Select the Filter Radio button to view the filter applied in the pending version. In this example, no filter exists in the published version, while the new version contains a filter definition. These comparison views provide owners and superusers with detailed information about the proposed changes before approval. Once the changes have been reviewed, select the Close button to return to the Publish Request modal. Select the preview icon within the grid and verify that the return data reflects the proposed changes. Confirm that the Chinook genre field is no longer present and that the return data complies with the configured filter criteria. By following these steps, owners and superusers can thoroughly review proposed changes before approval, helping to maintain data integrity and accuracy within the system. To approve the request and publish the updated data object, select the Approve button. A confirmation message will be displayed, indicating that the request has been submitted as a batch job. Progress can be monitored from the Publication Approvals section of the home page. Once the status changes to completed, the updated data object is published and becomes available within the Publish Data Objects section. To verify this, select the Data Objects menu item and expand the Uncategorized section. Only a single demo_do data object should be displayed. Right-click the data object and preview the data to confirm that the published version now reflects the approved changes. By following this process, approved changes are published and reflected in the Publish Data object, making them available to all users with the appropriate access permissions. This concludes the Legoz Quick Start presentation. Throughout this series, the creation and configuration of organizations, roles, and user accounts have been demonstrated, together with the integration of data sources, the creation of data objects, and the application of role-based security. These examples provide a practical understanding of how the key components of Legoz work together to deliver secure, controlled access to data and platform functionality. For more detailed information on specific features and advanced configuration options, refer to the relevant Legoz training modules. Thank you for taking part in this Quick Start presentation, and welcome to Legoz.